I'm here with Hannah and Eitan, owners of a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping starving children mainly in Africa. So, let's start with a few questions. How do you guys manage to maintain this organization when you're faced such a seemingly impossible task to start with?
Well, we believe that God has a plan for us and for these children, and that we have to continue to help them no matter how challenging it might seem for us.
So you say that God is what keeps you going, essentially. So how do you manage to maintain your faith in God, even when you see this tragedy befalling such innocent lives? How can you be comfortable believing in a just and all-powerful God when you see such bad things happening to all these people?
So Jake, you bring up a really interesting question. Something we refer to as Tzadik for when something bad happens to somebody good, and people have been trying to answer this question for ages, and they've actually come up with a number of interesting responses.
Could you give us maybe a few examples?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that reward and punishment actually come in the afterlife in Olam Haba, and people suffer for their sins and earn their rewards in the world to come, and all the reward and punishment here is just for our minor deeds.
Well, Hannah, that's very interesting, but you have to ask, right? What about those innocent children who couldn't have done anything wrong? There's no way that they haven't lived long enough to have done anything wrong. So if God is really all-powerful and just, how could he just let such tragic things happen to them, even if he rewards them in the next world, because they haven't done anything in this world yet?
That's a really tough question, and one that we've definitely been struggling to answer.
Okay. So you mentioned there are a couple other approaches also. Could you let me in on some of those also?
Yeah, sure. So the truth is, there are going to be these questions that you can ask with any approaches, and they're going to be valid questions, but we just have to sometimes believe that God has a master plan, he has the best in mind for us, and we just can't necessarily understand everything he does.
Still, isn't it hard for you to believe when it's so impossible to know what that plan really is in the long run?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's something we really struggle with a lot.
So continuing, are there any other approaches?
Yeah, so...
Everyone be quiet, they're recording something.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that the bad things happening to good people might be a test of sorts, like a test for suffering to maintain their faith in God, and a test for us, the onlookers, to continue to respond positively and keep our belief even when we perceive injustice.
We had a little disruption earlier in the stage, but we'll keep going.
Definitely changed my Sundays. It's made it a lot more interesting.
FanDuel's one-week fantasy football leagues are paying $75 million a week with immediate cash payouts and no commitment.
I've deposited a total of $35 on FanDuel and won over $2 million.
Just choose a league, pick your team, and get your cash winnings after Monday night.
It's like the best adrenaline rush ever.
Try FanDuel today. We'll match your first deposit up to $200. Go to FanDuel.com and enter promo code YouTube31.
So, if God is just using suffering and injustice to achieve a goal, how can he be all-powerful? Shouldn't he just be able to achieve that goal without making anything unfair?
Yeah, that's a good point. We really just have to accept that we're not going to understand everything about how God works. I mean, it's the same idea with God instituting suffering to make us better people. It would explain how God could be good, but it doesn't really hold up if he's all-powerful.
I guess it really is a difficult question. The only other real explanation I might be able to think of is that people who are punished, have still sinned, aren't really perfect. But I guess you still have that problem when you consider all the people you're trying to help. It really is hard to believe that God is just and all-powerful.
Yeah, it really definitely is. But it's something we have to deal with, and we just have to keep moving on regardless of the truth about God. It's our responsibility to help people whether or not God is loving and whether or not he's just.
Well, I guess that is a noble cause. All right, guys, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.